It's time to tell Hydra to pack it in. Hello, everyone. Bront CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends, and we're here to talk about Packmaster Shaik. Got that on the third take. Awesome. All right, Packmaster is a fun champion. He is the fusion. He is finishing up, I think, today. Maybe he finished up yesterday. I don't know. But regardless, hopefully you went for him because he is an absolute beast in Hydra. But not a beast in the way that you might think of. He allows you to basically never get digested, or almost never. And it's actually a pretty simple build, and we're going to go through it. I'm going to run two different teams, show you how I built two different teams around this. And you really only need one specific champion for this team, and then you need Packmaster himself. So why is Packmaster really cool? Well, when he's booked, he's got this Packmaster Alpha skill that has a 3-turn cooldown that places a 2-turn taunt. And that is what we're building this entire team around. So with a 3-turn cooldown on a 2-turn taunt, if we can shave one more turn off that cooldown, you can have taunt up indefinitely. What does doing taunt up indefinitely do for you? Well, it allows you to put a taunt loop where nobody can ever swallow your champions. So how do we do that? Well, that's where we find this other champion here. But first, before we talk about that, let's just look at the other parts of his kit. Even if you're not going to use him for this as a permanent taunt loop, he also has a wonderful block buffs at 100% on a 3-turn cooldown as well. And then his A1 does some decreased defense, although not particularly great. And he does additional stuff if you're putting him with some of the dogs. Now, the dogs are not particularly great, although to be fair, I could probably build a Fellhound as a damage dealer, and then I would make it even easier to build this because one of the things he will need for this build, he's going to need some resistance, because you need to make sure that when he's taunting somebody, he is not losing this taunt, because with taunt and reflect damage, he is going to be the center of the mischief tank's he is going to be the center of the mischief head's attention. So you need to make sure he's never losing the taunt. So as long as he has the taunt up, as long as he's got enough resistance to never lose the taunt, you're in great shape. And then the trick is then just to get it down to 2 turns. So how do we do that? Well, we use this champion. We use a Painkeeper, a Void Rare. Very, very easy. Hopefully a champion you have a few of. You see, I've actually got 3 of them fully built. Apparently I've got 5 of them. I may have some more in my vault as well. I could certainly build another one for this, but instead I'm using the one I use in my clan boss team. So, Painkeeper has this 4-turn cooldown, decreases the cooldown of all ally skills by 1 turn. So, if Painkeeper is twice as fast as Packmaster, she will always run this skill once in between every 2 times the Packmaster goes, which means every other time Packmaster goes, he will put up his taunt and keep it up. Now, there's some additional play with that speed, so you don't really want to hit exactly 2 times. It really does depend. Increased speed doesn't really affect this too much because increased speed goes over the total speed. You do want to make sure that it is the true speed. So if you have a speed lead, you need to take that into account for how much speed that's adding to both champions. If you have any other turn meter boost, that can affect this as well. Although Painkeeper does have this wonderful A1 that gives them additional 10% turn meter, which helps a little bit even that out. But overall, you want to make sure that he's at least half as fast as your Painkeeper, and that's the aim. For some teams, you may want to go even lower, and we'll talk about that in the team building. So my Painkeeper, this is my one I built for my Bat Eater. So she is 242 speed, and that's really the important stat. In fact, we want to look at this quickly in Hydra. So she has got a decent amount of damage built into her, because again, I could build the damage in there for Clan Boss. The HP helps with her heal, which is another thing that she does bring to the team. So she brings some additional healing, which is actually very good. And the speed's around 256. So that's kind of the speed we're aiming for. But I've got plus 14 in Hydra. Packmaster is going to get that same plus 14. So I have to take that into account as well. So that's definitely important. So let's go look at the Packmaster again. All right, so we got my Packmaster here. My Packmaster has almost no speed of any kind whatsoever. You see, he's got 1 point from a mastery, and he's got 5 points from one of the artifacts. And in fact, that is actually a set bonus for perception because I wanted to give him enough accuracy to land his block debuffs. So you see here, we've got a ton of HP because he's an HP champion. So if we can get HP, that's great. He's got a ton of defense kind of naturally as well. Some of that's probably from the artifacts as well. He's got almost no speed, so he's at 118, which means he's well below the 264 that Painkeeper is, which is good because you get a bit of a margin of error for that, so that's good. You could certainly build it closer, and in fact, if you want to rely on his block buffs, you want to speed him up just a little bit, but you got to be careful how you do it and be careful with the rest of the team you build around him. Don't really care too much about crit rate or crit damage. It wouldn't hurt because he does hit pretty hard, but we're not looking for him. He's not going to be attacking every other turn anyway, so it's not really that big of a deal. So the resistance here, 558, is overkill, but I know a lot of you guys are going to struggle to get that if you're an earlier game account. So me effectively building more resistance than I actually need, it's a little bit of a handicap on my end. I actually need about 350 to 360 resistance to be comfortable on Hydra hard, which is where we're aiming for. So me building a ton of extra resistance handicaps the build just a little bit. So I couldn't build extra damage. I couldn't build other stuff into it. So hopefully this makes it kind of more relatable to you. You shave about 200 points off that resistance, and that's really what you're looking for. So what do I have him in? Well, I said I put him in perception because I had 2 good pieces of perception. In fact, I'll just show you right here. This is a high resistance one with a little bit of accuracy, super high resistance, a few other stats. And then it's 4-piece stone skin, and that's entirely because I had some good stone skin with some resistance. You'd say I don't even have a resistance chest because I have this wonderful chest with an HP percentage and a 3 hits in resistance. So this let me get a bunch of extra HP with this resistance. If you're struggling with getting into resistance, a resistance chest will be just fine. And then I've got him in defense percent boots. HP percent boots would be fine as well, but I was looking for stuff without speed, so this gave me what I was looking for. Finally, he's got a resistance banner, and this was the only one I had without speed, so I would preferred HP percent, but again, defense doesn't hurt, so he takes less damage. HP or defense on the amulet is fine, but again, the resistance is the important part. And then HP or defense on the ring would make the most sense. This is a really good ring, so it worked for him. So let's go take a look at the 2 teams we've got. I'll talk about the accessible team first, and we'll run through that and see how much damage that's running. All right, so here we have an accessible hard team. This is actually in Hydra, so you can see the team setup I've got here, and you can see the actual stats. So I've got a Geomancer here. This Geomancer is in reflex gear. He's got enough accuracy to do, actually he's got enough accuracy to do Nightmare. He's super fast. These are probably not the most attainable stats from an accessibility standpoint, but Geomancer is a good champion for damage. He's honestly not the best for a full auto, although this team works on full auto. This team is probably a little bit better on full auto while you watch it, so you can direct Geomancer occasionally, and if for some reason one of your champions gets eaten, which can happen, and I'll explain why, you can help get him out pretty easily. We've got Ugo here. Ugo is also in Relentless gear. Again, she's actually built kind of for Nightmare because that's where I use this particular one for, but mostly accessible if you realize you only need about 250 accuracy as opposed to 400. So the rest of these stats could be adjusted a little bit from there. The speeds aren't super important on her. Physics is also in Relentless. Physics is very important. As far as presets concerned, we want to make sure that she gets the provoke off as often as possible. We then want her to do the decreased speed if possible. And she's in Relentless to get that provoke out as often as possible. Physics is in this accessible team because she is a free champion you get at 270. And she's actually really good in Hydra, especially for early accessible teams and for lower level teams that don't quite need to go as fast, because she does have a 1-turn provoke and a 3-turn cooldown. And since it's an AoE, it's very auto friendly. Plus, she then brings the decreased speed, which can also then make it a little easier to be slightly slower speed on your team as well. So she's bringing a lot of utility here as well. Painkeeper, as we said before, she's got the combat tactics. I didn't want her to start with the combat tactics because I didn't. So she starts with her AoE attack. She then uses her combat tactics, which, by the way, will actually change the cooldown of her spectacular sweep. So she'll get her AoE again back pretty quickly. And then if she doesn't do either one of those, she'll get this A1 turn meter boost. So it's, nice and easy. Shayak, we are going to basically go off with his pack alpha. And so he's going to put his taunt up. It's going to be his highest priority. And we're going to start with it. And ideally, hopefully, he gets it off, and then Painkeeper takes a second turn. In actuality, Painkeeper will take her turn and do the reset before this happens, because it's just the way the team will tend to work, because Painkeeper is significantly faster than Shaik. And then finally, Inquisitor Shamail keeps the fears off of us. He's done a ton of damage. I think I've got him in 6-piece Malice gear, so he's ignoring some defense and doing a ton of damage. And it's a great way to use these champions to make sure you get multiple things out of them. Shamail does damage and heals the fears. Vizix deals the slows, does the provoke, actually does some decent damage just because she does smack pretty hard, especially if you get her with a lot of defense. Do not build her with a lot of crit damage. I'm actually kind of unfortunate that I've got this much, because allied protection will certainly hurt you. Ugo brings, of course, the block buffs and the decreased defense, and then she's got a cleanse and heal. And honestly, I find leaving her to do what she needs to do is great, because she will generally prioritize decreased defense and block buffs. However, if she sees there's a bunch of debuffs or people that need healing, she will sometimes preempt this for this Ugo's Brew. She's actually kind of smart, so definitely worth building there. With Geomancer, he's all about his quicksand grass. The burn that reflects damage, you want that to be his priority. I do like keeping this Creeping Petrify on, because the Creeping Petrify can remove buffs and sometimes strip them and steal them if there's a burn on the champion as well. That's a very good ability. It's obviously better when you're controlling it, but it still can be helpful, because we're not going to have block debuffs up or block buffs up 100% of the time, all the time sometimes, and just sometimes things get away from you. So it's nice to have that as a viable option for you. So we're going to start this on auto. The only caveat to starting this on auto is we want to make sure that Vizix lands her provoke on the first turn, and we want to make sure Ugo lands her block debuffs on the first turn. So we are going to run, make sure that they get landed. We are on hard, and we're on auto. So we are going to watch. Specifically, we're looking for this head. So this is the Decay to Decay. We got some burns on there. That's great. We got the block debuffs. And we got the provoke. So we're all set. We're going to let this coast on auto. As you can see here, Shamail is currently the first one to get eaten on this team. So we are going to walk down, and as we get closer, there's the taunt that comes up. I will come back in, and you can see how it'll get to 0, and he won't get eaten. Now, while I'm actually here talking about this, I can explain there are situations where there's a chance that somebody still may get eaten, but you're going to delay it for so long that you're going to get the 5 turn to free the first time, and then the 4 turn to free the second time, and it's going to take so long to have anybody even get an opportunity to get eaten, it shouldn't be a big deal. And what can happen is, if the Wrath Head is out, the Wrath Head can provoke everybody, and if the provoke happens at the wrong time, and Painkeeper gets provoked, she may not do her combat tactics, which may not reset Shaik. Shaik, of course, is got super high resistance, so he should not get provoked, so it shouldn't be an issue for him anyway. And in this particular team, Painkeeper is fast enough that she's actually going almost at a she's going almost at a 2.5 to 1 ratio. So she's going about 5 times for every 2 for Shaik. So you actually sometimes get some extra leeway on that combat tactics if she gets provoked. So it's a very rare case. It does mean that somebody has a chance to get eaten at some point in time, but overall it's not too bad. And we're actually here. We're at 7 down for Shamail, so we've already downed 1 head. The damage isn't too crazy, but honestly, we're on pace to get a 1 key on hard and then some. So I cannot complain too much about that. So let's skip forward a little bit so you guys don't have to watch all this stuff, and we'll break back in when we have somebody about to get eaten. I'm going to break in there because that was surprising. I thought about stopping this and decided I'm not going to. I'm going to let this run. we got 3%ed, and Shaik got he had his buff stolen by Mischief right before we got our first champ eaten. So we're now at our second champ getting eaten, which is Ugo. We still have plenty of turns to bring free our Shamail, so we should have Shamail out pretty quickly, and I'm not going to do anything to push this up, because again, this is supposed to be a full auto team, so we should, there we go, there's the Shamail, we got him back, and let's keep going. So we'll wait till Ugo is ready to get digested, and we'll come back. But again, that's one of the other things that can certainly happen to get your champion eaten. And now that we just dropped Mischief, there's a good chance that we may not have Mischief come back, and if he doesn't come back, then we're even better. So, all right, we're going to break in right here. We've almost got Ugo getting ready to be eaten. In fact, we're down to one hit right here. But we are at 1 key on hard. So almost 50 turns in, 7 minutes into the run. You know, probably closer to 6.5 minutes because I broke in a little late. But we are ready to watch the Packmaster work. So we are at 0. And, you know, next turn the Hydra takes, which actually should have been that turn, we should be eaten. But we're not getting eaten because they're forced to attack Packmaster. So they can't use the eat ability. It's not that they use the eat ability and then try to eat the Packmaster. They cannot use the eat ability, so they'll do other stuff. So unfortunately, we just lost our Painkeeper there, so that's definitely going to be an end of the run. But hey, we managed to actually get a 1 key on this. We can certainly run this again and hope that Painkeeper doesn't pass away. We can certainly put a little more healing on here as well. In fact, I could certainly aim Ugo to heal a little more often, and we'll be good to go. But, you know, not too bad for a full auto, accessible, 1 key hard team. So let's let this run out and see where we run. And to be fair, when I say that's the end of the run, that's the end of the nobody ever getting eaten. That doesn't mean that we can't still run this for quite a long time, because if everybody else can stay alive, we still got Ugo for healing, we still got Packmaster delaying the eating, so it may actually be quite a long time before people actually die and don't come back, other than Painkeeper, obviously. So we'll see where that is. Look at that. We got Ugo eaten, and we got her back right away, because Gio's been getting plenty of burns out there. So we'll see how this goes. There's one more thing I wanted to break here and talk about quickly, as we're approaching almost 40 million on this, and we still haven't had Geomancer had a chance to get eaten yet. We just got the Taunt up as G at 0, so that's going to help quite a bit. But one of the things the Packmaster does as well is I did not actually show his passive, but his passive will put out Hex when he's attacked, and then everyone else will do additional damage when Hex is out there. So I believe it's a 20% extra damage when Hex. We'll look it up at the end of this run. And he brings the Hex, which adds a lot of damage. Okay, we just lost Physics, so this is going to slowly but surely go down a little bit. I guess Physics is not big of a surprise either, because she does have the ally protection. But overall, we are doing okay. And again, I think a lot of people would probably be happy with a 40 million hard key. This might even work on Brutal. I definitely think this is a better team for hard, or even for normal. On normal, this team will probably go the distance without really any changes of any kind whatsoever. In fact, I think I'll run this on normal after we run this on hard, just to give you a little bit of the tour. But we'll let this finish up, because we are slowly but surely going to be losing everybody here. So this is going to wind down pretty quickly as you guys are watching. So come on, Packmaster, you got this. You can do this. You can solo the Hydra. I believe in you. Maybe not. Yeah, that's asking a lot of you. But you're trying. And he's been eaten. That's the only unfortunate problem, too, is if he ends up getting the digestion and the taunt, that doesn't really help if he's the one that's going to be eaten next. But he shouldn't be the first person to be eaten, which means it shouldn't be a big deal. And again, you can free a couple champions. I freed 2 champions and got all the way to Geomancer about to get eaten. So 41 million, Shaek did 3 million, Painkeeper did 3 million, Ugo did 3 million, Vizix did 6, Geomancer did the 14 million, he did a ton, Shamail did 9 million. We're going to regroup this. I'm going to go run this quickly on normal, because we were talking about that. We hunt as 1. When attacked, places a hex debuff on the attacker for 1 turn. This is a place, so this can be placed through the Poison Cloud, which is actually good to know as well, because that means that you can still do some damage through Poison Cloud, which is huge. And then daily attacks on targets under a hex debuff placed by this champion are 20%, deal 20% more damage. So you don't need to bring hex with anybody if you've got Shaik, because you will get hex. So he brings your hex, he brings your block buffs, he brings the pack alpha. If you wanted to build him at full speed, high resistance as a target with some accuracy, and not bring a Painkeeper, he still brings an awful lot to your team. I wouldn't have to bring an Ugo, for example, so I think he's got some pretty good use here. But I kind of like this nobody gets eaten team. Again, it didn't work particularly well on hard for me, but I was trying to make an accessible team, and we still got to 40 million, so I'm not going to complain too much. Let's go run this on normal and see how this goes, and I'll get right back to you when it's done. So there we go, on normal, 64 million. Nice, definitely almost 10 times what you need for 1 key. Nice and easy to deal with. Shaik actually did a decent amount of damage. Vizix died pretty early, so she didn't really help too much. Now, one of the things that's been just looking with this team here, and I've not rebuilt a lot of these champions for this other than Shaik, is there's been some death. And instead of Inquisitor Shamael, I could probably use a Rector Drath. I would lose a lot of damage because you can see Shamael has been one of the leaders in damage here. But because Rector would keep everyone alive, the team would run a lot smoother. And as a result, the team would last a lot longer. So you'd probably get possibly better damage. You could also somebody use a better damage dealer than Geo necessarily for that. The only thing you do need to be worried about if you replace Shamael is you need to know who your first target is going to be for being digested. Because as long as it's not Shaik, you're in great shape. So let's go take a look at a more advanced hard team to see what you can kind of do, push the limits of this. Again, my account, I'm not necessarily doing the billions of damage in Hydra, but I'm a good, reasonable endgame example. So let's go take a look. So here we have a more endgame aimed team here. We've got Michinaki, who, to be fair, was a guaranteed champion at one point in time. Michinaki brings a lot to the table. He brings the Hex, which also does a strip. He brings the decreased defense, which is great, and decreased attack, which is also very good. And then he will bring burns, but on top of that fact, he will actually give you additional damage and burns on champions underneath Hex. So he and Shaik should help with the Hex back and forth. Now, this will interfere with Shaik just a little bit, but Michinaki's a good damage dealer, and I want to make sure Hex is out there an awful lot. So we'll go with both. Plus, again, he can strip buffs off with his double degeneracy. Although I think what we're actually going to I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to go with swapping this to first. And then we'll let that be second. So we'll try to keep the decreased defense and decreased attack up a little more often. The Hex will be nice and we'll strip occasionally, but that'll let Shaik play some of his Hex out there as well, and hopefully it doesn't get overridden too often. So that'll be good. Necmo Thar. Necmo Thar brings all the speed, so we get some increased speed and some turn meter boost. Then we get decreased speed and leech, which is one of our big heals that we're going to have on there. And then his A1 is decreased attack. Michinaki's just in general gear. Necmo is in provoke. So Necmo is our provoker. So he should take a lot of turns because he goes generally pretty quick. He's at 272 speed. Plus we have the extra speed here. Plus he's got the decreased speed on the enemy. Plus Podrick's got some additional speed as well. Plus we got ally attack with Podrick as well. So the end result of this should be that Necmo is constantly going and he should keep the provoke up fairly well. It's not going to be a 100% provoke. We're going to get some slips. The only thing we're going to make sure is we want to make sure on the first turn that the head of decay gets provoked. So we're going to make sure that we get provoke, and we're going to make sure we get block debuffs up if we can. Painkeeper, we've talked about Painkeeper before. We've got the Spectacular Sweep, sure, leading off with the A1 just to get a little extra turn meter boost. Combat Tactic is our high priority here. We've got Podrick. Podrick, normally I would actually lead off with this increased speed and the turn meter fill, but since we've got that in Necmo Thar, I want to get this ally attack out constantly, and this also is going to get more continuous heals out there. Now this is on a 4-turn cooldown, but Painkeeper is going to help drop this a bit. Now, Podrick is really nuts in speed. He's super fast. I use him in Arena, and I use him in Hard Fire Knight. So I don't expect this to be an endgame achievable build. He is in protection gear, and that helps quite a bit. I think he might be in Supersonic as well. But he's in 5-piece protection at the very least. Good champion. Love using him in all kinds of areas, and this is a great one for it. He also has this decrease active cooldown skill, so there's a chance that even if Painkeeper doesn't get it, he might hit Shaik and decrease something, or he might decrease Painkeeper's skill by 2 turns, and Painkeeper gets it off early or extra, so that's definitely helpful. Shaik, we've gone over before. Good champion. Again, finally, Shamail. Boost the turn meter of the leader. Get everything ready to go. Now, you notice we don't have block debuffs really on this thing. So Shaik here will lead off with the Bloody Howl to start with, and we'll get that block debuffs up early, and with all the turn meter boost and the speed increase in here, he should get that off before the very first turn. It's not going to be super reliable up all the time, but it should get up enough to make the first part of the run easy, and then we can start chipping away at the boss's heads, and if we can keep the heads down pretty well, it shouldn't be a major issue to not have block buffs up on occasion. So overall, we'll give this a run and see how this goes. So I will be back to you at the end result of the damage, unless I've got anything I need to add. All right, so 60 minutes in, we're joining our run here on hard. We are just about done, and this will be the final turn. So we had a few champions that got eaten overall. I think we had 4 digestions total, including one of them being Shaik getting targeted for digestion, so that didn't help. But there we go. Hit the turn limit with a decent team. 268 million, 269 if you round up. Nice team overall. As see, Michinaki did a ton of damage. Shamail did a lot of damage. And Painkeeper, Nekmothar did some decent damage. Shaik even did a decent amount of damage, given he's only attacking every other turn. Podrick helps a lot, do a lot of damage because he's got the ally attack. So his damage numbers are certainly not there. And I'm sure Shaik's numbers are actually from him throwing out some of his hex as well. And that's, I'm sure, where some of Michinaki's numbers come from as well. So here you go. Shaik can build you a fairly indestructible team because honestly, getting digested is really the biggest problem with Hydra. So if you can prevent yourself from getting digested, delay it quite a bit, Shaik is great for that. And you can certainly do other kinds of things with him too. If you wanted to put him in reflex gear, for example, maybe you don't even need a Painkeeper. You wanted to put him in anything else that drops the turn meter, give him some refresh accessories, put him in the live arena set that does some resets as well, give him the mastery that does resets. You can play up that and just kind of hope that he mostly keeps it up all the time. And every once in a while it'll lapse and somebody will get eaten, and then you just move on from there. And that means you don't even need the Painkeeper. You can build him very fast, and you can build him to use his block debuffs as well, because he'll be fast enough to keep everything up as well. So all kinds of fun options with him, but I figured this show this one to you. I do want to give a shout out to Bronco, because Bronco is the one who put a video out on this earlier, and I thought it was just a great idea, and I wanted to run it and bring it to you guys and put my spin on it as well. So do check out Bronco. I'll bring up do check out Bronco. I'll put a link to him down below, and he's a great ride content creator. He does a lot of team crafting, a really smart dude. Go check him out as well. So until the next time, it's been fun talking with you guys. I'm Bront CatHerder.